You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
For writers and public personalities, it's becoming increasingly important to have an online presence. This normally takes the form of a website and social media. However, things like a cluttered site or broken links can scare potential readers away. It's time to get a health check. Until the 30th of June, Black Wolf Editorial Services is offering a special website health check package. Get a new bio for your site. Have the site navigation and general layout assessed. Get a review of your Twitter activities. Get an objective opinion about your public Facebook page. Find out what works well and what could potentially scare your readers away. And all this for $35. At the end of the day, the face we put online will be the one that most people will see. Let us help you put your best foot forward. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For full details and a list of other services, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
We believe in the American way, and we built this country called the USA, and we fly our flag because we're proud and free, we're Americans. Red, white, and blue is our way of life. Never back down from a challenge or a fight. Nature provides, God gives the rights, we're Americans. We fish the waters and we hunt the lands. We forge the steel with our own two hands. With what we've got, we do the best we can. We're Americans.
It's time now for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show on K98 Talk. Now, here's Grouchy.
Good evening. Welcome back to another Conservative Curmudgeon B&G session. And if you're not familiar with the B&G session, just stay tuned. You'll catch on to what it's all about. So before we get rolling tonight, there's a couple things I'd like to do. First thing is I would like to remind everybody that 2 hours after my show ends to stay tuned for America Off the Rails with Rowdy Rick. And then tomorrow night, you want to be on K98 for your entire primetime lineup because, face it, summertime reruns on TV suck anyway. Be here with some original, witty programming, some great hosts. We got Doc A and Lou with Office Hours. We got Stacy and JD with Game On. And we also have Rick and Jen with America Off the Rails tomorrow night. And beyond that, I would just like to say congratulations to a couple of special friends of mine out there. They know who they are. They are respectively writing for both Twitchy and for Red State now, and they are both doing fantastic jobs. I don't know if they have made this public knowledge or not, so I'm not telling you who they are just yet. But suffice it to say, that's my fault for not checking with them sooner. And now, anyway, the other big announcement is next Wednesday night. That's right, 1 week from tonight, right here live on this program, we're going to take at least half of the program, maybe more, depending on his mood. But we're going to welcome Dave Bray former frontman of Madison Rising and now on his own with a solo career. Dave Bray is going to be live with Grouchy right here next week on the show. And, folks, all I can tell you is Dave's electric, and I think you're really going to enjoy him being on the air with us here. We're gonna try to do something real special for you, and hopefully get some of Dave's newer material to be able to play on the air for us. And other than that, it's just Wednesday night, and basically everything in the world of news in the last week has happened in the city of Orlando, Florida. Now, I spent a good deal of my childhood living a little south of Orlando, far enough away to where you didn't have to deal with the hustle and bustle and the traffic and all that stuff, but close enough to go anytime we wanted to. And I got to tell you, Orlando today is not the Orlando that I knew, but, times do change. But more so than times changing are society changing. And people have lost their ever-loving damn minds. We're going to talk about the shooting at the nightclub. We're going to talk about some of the fallout from it. We're going to talk about another shooting that happened in Orlando that a lot of people don't even realize was in Orlando. They may have heard about it, but they didn't realize it was actually in Orlando. And we're also going to talk about the horrific tragedy that occurred last night, actually on Disney Resort property, the 2-year-old that was killed by the alligator. What else could happen to Orlando? The next thing is the whole piece of ground in the state of Florida just opens up and swallows the city. Really, take it to Dante's ninth layer of hell. For everything they're going through and trudging through and everything else that's going on, Orlando is the embodiment of hell right now. So anyway, we're going to start with something we have, just a couple of brief minutes here. First of all, thoughts and prayers to this family from Nebraska who was vacationing at Disney World. I cannot even imagine the horror and the pain they are feeling knowing that their child is dead. Now, according to police sources, and we haven't heard the call yet, but when they actually called authorities to report what happened, the police are saying that the father said the child was playing in the water. Now, folks, I don't know exactly what spot of the lagoon they were on, but there are signs posted telling people not to go in the water. I have been to Disney World more times than most people ever get the quote-unquote privilege of going. I don't mind going now. There are some new things that I haven't seen and done, but I went so much as a youngster that it became torment for me to go. I have seen the alligators in the water there. They've always been there. It's known. And it's Florida, for crying out loud. There are alligators in people's swimming pools in Florida. You have to know that in a body of water as big as this lagoon is, and it is big. If you've ever been there, you know what I mean. If you haven't, look at the aerial picture. It's huge. It's called the Seven Seas Lagoon at Disney World. It's a big body of water. There's no doubt that there are alligators in this water. And there is no doubt that there are poisonous snakes that swim in this lagoon as well. It's a wild habitat. You have to expect there to be wildlife there. That being said, I'm not ready to point a finger at anybody. I just know that there are signs posted telling people to stay out of the water. Anyway, like I also said, thoughts and prayers to the family. Their pain is unimaginable, just absolutely unimaginable, the torment they are going through right now. So do keep them in mind. The other shooting, the other lesser known shooting, well, maybe not even lesser known, there was a contestant from the television show The Voice, and her name escapes me at the moment, but she was shot and killed in Orlando. And her brother was in the crowd, didn't watch it happen, but he was there when it happened. Obviously, he didn't just sit and watch it happen, but he was there when it happened. And how horrific this must be. I mean, the city of Orlando is being pulled like a piece of taffy in every kind of direction right now with different things going on. And none of them are good, except, did you see what Chick-fil-A did after the nightclub shooting? That's right, Chick-fil-A. Yeah, they set up a blood drive for the victims that were being treated in the hospitals. They served food for the people on what would normally be their off day on Sunday, as this thing happened at 2 o'clock Sunday morning. So, again, in the face of everything that they don't stand for as a corporate entity, they don't support same-sex marriage. They support traditional marriage. But you know what else they do? You know what else they support? They support every American. Every single American. Chick-fil-A does not care what color you are. They do not care if you are in a traditional or same-sex marriage, other than the fact that they do not believe in same-sex marriage. But they will still support you in your time of need, because this is the kind of company they are. These are the values that the founder, Truett Cathy, had and passed on to his children, who are taking them forward to another generation, a whole new generation of Chick-fil-A. And folks, let me tell you something. You have idiots out there, I mean just pure idiots, talking about Chick-fil-A. They partly responsible for this because they don't support same-sex marriage. Well, no, you know what? They don't have to either. They don't have to support it. Just the same way there's people out there that don't support the Second Amendment. They don't have to support it. Now, the Second Amendment is a constitutional right. It is a God-given right guaranteed by the Constitution. And it's a little different because same-sex marriage is not a God-given right guaranteed by the Constitution. And I challenge anybody to show me where it says that it is. And don't try to interpret things. Show me where it states it. Otherwise, shut your mouth. Now, this man, Omar Mateen, who shot this nightclub up, In the first stages of the assault, according to investigators, he was very calm and cool. And they said he did talk by phone to law enforcement officials about further carnage and claimed allegiance to ISIS and praised the Boston Marathon bombers, the Tsarnaev brothers. As officials offered new details about the worst mass shooting in American history, which left an official death toll of 49 at this point, there are still people that are considered in critical condition in hospitals in Orlando, so we do not know if that number will rise more yet or stay where it is. 53 additional wounded. Omar Mateen told police negotiators falsely that, well, they later discovered that it was false, that he had explosives and accomplices at the Pulse nightclub. Now, there's still some shakeout on this. They have arrested Mateen's wife. They're not calling her an accomplice in the crime, but they are saying that she knew of his intent, and they're looking at what charges could or should be filed against her for not reporting and possibly stopping this attack from happening. You would think, I don't know. I'm sure they have his phone records seized by now, probably within 20 minutes of this thing happening. But he may or may not have been in contact with her during or after the attack. Could make her an accessory after the fact. Certainly, she did know of his intent. So there are all kinds of things going on with this woman. But I want to speak to Mateen's state of mind a little bit here, because the investigation is really, if you look at all the facts in this case, and as they trickle out, still a very fluid situation. Maybe not as fluid, but still fluid enough to say it's fluid. There's a lot of information about this guy that's coming out or not coming out, or, it begs a little bit of head scratching and eyebrow raising. First, his ex-wife, his ex-wife stated that he was abusive. It doesn't look like she ever filed a police report of any kind about his quote-unquote abusiveness, but she does say that she was literally rescued from him by her parents. They took her from his arms and whisked her away. She talked about his disdain towards women, how he treated them. His coworkers seemed to shore that opinion of women up. There was the one male coworker who was stated as saying that Mateen found it irritating and angering that he had to be nice just to try to get a woman to sleep with him, and told his coworker that they should be honored to sleep with a man, and that, they should be throwing themselves to him instead of him having to beg for them. He was very put off by Western women, apparently. The ex-wife then took about a day off from talking to the press about the alleged abuse that she went through, and then her comments were, he was a homosexual. Well, wait a minute. What the hell? I mean, he was married to you. He's married to a woman now. But he's been going to this gay nightclub for years, apparently, on and off. If it is indeed years that he's been going to the club, this is the longest casing of a nightclub I've ever heard of in my life. Probably the longest casing of any place to commit a crime I've heard of in my entire life. Can't imagine anybody spending that kind of time there. Was he or was he not on a gay dating app? Did he have a gay dating profile? I do not know. Again, investigation still ongoing. We will wait for facts. We know that politically speaking, he was a registered Democrat. We also know, politically speaking, that Obama is basically calling what he did an act of hatred and terrorism. I think he actually used the word terrorism, which, I mean, that's here nor there. It's even if he did call it terrorism, it's a day late and a dollar short, because he won't say what it really is, which it is Islamic terrorism, radicalized Islamic terrorism. He can call it a perversion of Islam if he wants to, but if he's going to do that, he has to absolutely say that any other religious beliefs held by people that commit crimes, that their crimes, if the crimes are related to their religion, that they would have perverted the religion. You can't run around blaming those damn wild-eyed Lutherans for running around killing people and say that that's Christianity for you, but then just back off and say, whoa, this isn't Islam, this is a perversion of Islam. It doesn't work that way, Mr. President. It never has. And you are, sir, politicizing this well beyond. You're trying to set the plate for Hillary, which you don't have to do, because Trump stepped in a giant pile of it today, making a giant jackass of himself, going to set up a meeting with the NRA to discuss people on the no-fly list being banned from buying weapons. And we're going to elaborate on that a little later in the program. We gotta start pushing a little forward faster here, because I do want to get to that. It's very important that we cover it, and there's a lot of information related to that topic. But this guy Mateen skated through 2 FBI investigations, to which they say that they were inconclusive. This guy, Mateen, he claimed to have connections to Islamic State. He claimed to be a member of Hezbollah. He obviously doesn't know the difference between a Sunni and a Shiite group. Just saying. And that, it's just unreal. Where everything this guy, he said he hoped the law enforcement would raid his apartment and assault his wife and child so that he could martyr himself. This was according to James Comey, the FBI director. It's just unbelievable that this guy managed to stay under radar. And obviously the ex-wife did not report him to the police, or he would have never, ever been cleared to be a government contractor security guard. I mean, this is unreal. The stories out of the nightclub from the survivors. The girl that was in the bathroom and pulled dead bodies on top of her and then just laid still underneath them throughout the event, this 3-hour event, until the police were in the club asking out loud if there were any survivors. They're just looking, a sign of life from somebody, anybody. And she was able to stay hidden underneath dead bodies until the police were in the club. God bless you, lady. God bless you. She's going to be traumatized for life from that. You cannot not be affected by having to pull dead bodies up on top of yourself and lay still to fend off a wild, insane, basically, shooter just to stay alive. Just to stay alive. The bathroom is where the subsequent killing started. He barricaded himself into the bathroom in the club after SWAT had arrived. But, SWAT did their job. I absolutely hate that it took 3 hours for it all to unfold and happen. But, it is what it is. And we're going to, bottom of the hour, we're going to go ahead and hit a break. And when we come back, we're going to elaborate some more on Trump stepping into a huge pile of it today with the NRA. Stay tuned. This is just some unbelievable stuff. And we got to talk about this no-fly hell and what it means and why it should never come to be. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a couple minutes right here on the Conservative Curmudgeon Show.
You and me, ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
As a mother, you don't want to have to worry about this bill is coming, but then she needs this chemo. That's a decision you shouldn't have to make.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
The treatment doesn't get any better than what you receive at St. Jude. It saved my life. It saved my daughter's life. It saved our family.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
Oh, but ain't that America? You and me. Ain't that America? Something to see back.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. As promised, we are going to address this no-fly thing that Trump's stepping into today and making a giant jackass of himself over. Okay, so we have Donald Trump wants to meet with the NRA, and he says that he would back a bill that would prohibit people on the no-fly list from purchasing weapons. My problem, Mr. Trump, Senate and congressional Democrats and Republicans, Mr. President, Mrs. Clinton, all of you dumbasses, here's my problem. An American citizen can be put on the no-fly list by virtually any government agency that reports you as quote-unquote suspicious. There is no, there's no defined procedure for the government to run you through to put you on a no-fly list. And listen to some of these comments, okay? Here's a quote. There's no due process or any way to get your name removed from it in a timely fashion. Senator Marco Rubio. Next quote. This is not a list you can be certain of. Okay, that's a little vague. And when I tell you who said it, you'll understand. It's Jeb Bush. But again, even Jeb is against this. He understands this is a bad idea. Okay? Mike Huckabee, he said that some people end up on the no-fly list due to suspicion alone, not necessarily even so much as probable cause. And this is what I was talking about. Okay? Now, we have a long story here, so stick with me because it all relates to this no-fly list and why it's such a terrible idea. Okay? Rahina Ibrahim, a Malaysian architect with a doctorate from Stanford, knows from personal experience that those gentlemen, Senator Rubio, Governor Bush, and Governor Huckabee, have compelling points. Ibrahim is the only person since the 9/11 attacks to file a court challenge that ultimately removed her name from the watch lists. It took her almost a decade to prevail in court, and even with that victory, it has proved Pyrrhic for her. It's just, it was probably not worth what it's going to gain her. While a federal judge agreed that her inclusion on the no-fly list was groundless, she remains unable to obtain a visa that would allow her to visit the United States, even to attend academic conferences. A close look at her case by ProPublica provides dramatic evidence of what was argued this month in Washington. It's indeed remarkably easy to get on the list and nearly impossible to get off of the list. This is why it's a bad idea. The questions of terrorism lists and visas appear likely to take center stage in the coming months with this election rolling at us. While the Senate rejected the amendment barring gun sales, Connecticut's governor just imposed just such a ban on a threat that is more theoretical. Between 2004 and 2014, more than 2,000 people on the government's watch list purchased firearms in the United States, according to a study by the Government Accountability Office. Now, you take that for what it's worth. That's the GAO. These are the same people that were in firm agreement that Obamacare would cost no more than what the president said and have since adjusted those figures about 6 times. Questions are also emerging about how Tafshin Malik, one of the perpetrators in the San Bernardino terrorism attack, managed to get a visa to join her husband despite her pro-jihadi postings on social media. Taken together, these two cases offer a disturbing look at the ability of U.S. authorities to effectively and fairly guard our homeland. Ibrahim's story began on January 2nd, 2005. She is a devout Muslim. She got up before dawn and said her morning prayers. A friend drove her up Highway 101 from San Jose to the San Francisco International Airport. She was booked on United Airlines Flight 41. Ibrahim planned to stop over in Hawaii, where she would deliver a paper at a prestigious conference before continuing to Malaysia. The 44-year-old mother of 4 felt good about her forthcoming trip, although she was still in pain from an emergency hysterectomy months earlier. She had just completed 4 years of demanding coursework while also working as a volunteer at the Stanford Hospital. She had just passed her oral exams, a considerable accomplishment for someone who had grown up in rural Malaysia and had not been out of the country until she was 18 years old. When Ibrahim, wearing a hijab, wearing a hijab that allowed not a strand of her brown hair to show, reached the counter, the ticket agent looked at her reservation and summoned a supervisor. Soon, Ibrahim saw 2 San Francisco police officers striding purposely through the terminal. After speaking with the supervisor, the officers told Ibrahim that she was under arrest, handcuffed her, and marched her through the crowded terminal to a police car that drove her to the airport police station. Inside, she would later recall, she found herself in a deeply uncomfortable setting. A handcuffed Muslim woman surrounded by 3 male policemen. The officers locked Ibrahim in a cell where she sat on a cold stainless steel bench and cried, the scar across her abdomen aching. Some of this is for effect. Deal with it. Ibrahim didn't know why she had been detained. She explained to the police officer that 2 FBI agents interviewed her just 9 days earlier. She showed them the business card that one of them, Kevin Kelly, had given her. Kelly was a member of the South Bay Joint Terrorism Task Force in San Jose. He asked her about her academic work. Her area of concentration at the engineering school was affordable housing. About her husband, he's very progressive and had allowed her to pursue her career, something most men in her conservative country would not do. And about Jemaah Islamiyah, a terrorist group created in Malaysia but best known for bombings of nightclubs in Bali. Ibrahim told Kelly she didn't know much about Jemaah Islamiyah beyond headlines on the internet, but that she was a member of Jemaah Islam Malaysia, a professional organization for people who had studied in the United States and Europe and encouraged the practice of more moderate forms of Islam. Now, after she had been detained at the police station for more than 2 hours, an official from Homeland Security, Lee Corman, showed up. He apologized to Ibrahim for her arrest and told her that she had been removed from the no-fly list and was now free to fly. It was the first time Ibrahim knew she was on the no-fly list. Before the 9/11 attacks, there were perhaps a dozen people worldwide on America's no-fly list. The numbers soared after the attacks, and by 2013, there are some 47,000 individuals on the list, according to the Justice Department. Grandmothers, infants, honorably discharged veterans, and the disabled have found themselves barred from boarding a plane. A few notorious cases made headlines, such as when Senator Edward Kennedy was stopped several times because it turned out there was a T. Kennedy on some agency's terror watch list. Kennedy's name was, of course, removed. I bet a lot quicker than everybody else that's petitioned that was on there wrongly. For tens of thousands of others, it's not so easy. The no-fly list is part of the post-9/11 security apparatus, which is a labyrinth of euphemisms and acronyms. The effort is coordinated by the Terrorism Screening Center, a multi-agency group of officials managed by the FBI in coordination with the CIA. All federal departments and agencies are responsible for collecting information about potential terrorists or attacks and sharing that information with the FBI or the CIA, either of which can nominate individuals for inclusion in the terrorist screening database. From that database, names are passed downstream in bureaucratic jargon to the so-called frontline agencies. For example, to the TSA, which administers the no-fly list, and to the State Department, where the names are put into the consular lookout and support system. Which American consular officers around the world call up when a foreigner applies for a visa. State and local law enforcement officials have access to the database, which now has some 700,000 records. A police officer pulling over a driver for speeding can check the name on a driver's license against the TSDB. In addition, the lists are shared with more than 20 foreign governments. An FBI agent need only have a, quote, reasonable suspicion to nominate someone, the FBI guideline says. It is supposed to be more than a mere guess or a hunch, but as Huckabee noted, the standard is well short of the probable cause the police need to arrest a person. Ibrahim was born in 1969, the second of 5 children into modest circumstances. Her father was a mid-level civil servant. She inherited school uniforms and textbooks from her older sister and then passed them on to her younger one. Neither of her parents had finished high school, and they pushed their children to get an education. Ibrahim had mild dyslexia and was something of a loner in school who found solace in drawing. She finished first in her high school class and was among one of the 25 students nationwide selected to study in the U.S. She had been on an airplane only once before, a small one, to return home from boarding school when her father died. The flight stopped for a layover in Hong Kong. Ibrahim got separated from the rest of the group. Another student in the honors program, Mustafa Kamal, the son of a primary school teacher in a small rural town, volunteered to find her. Kamal would continue chasing Ibrahim, changing her life in every sense of the word. Ibrahim enrolled in the University of Washington to study architecture. Kamal studied civil engineering at Cal State, Long Beach. After a long-distance telephone romance, they married in the summer between their 3rd and 4th years of school. Ibrahim graduated with honors in 1984 after the birth of the couple's first child and moved to Southern California to study for a master's at Southern Cal Institute of Technology in Santa Monica, which is not to be confused with the SHIFT, the Southampton Institute of Technology. Kamal assumed primary responsibility for domestic chores. He said, I was a stay-at-home dad. He was becoming Americanized. He watched the ABC News with Peter Jennings, he said, telling on their age a little bit here. And he was such a diehard Los Angeles Lakers fan that he and his friends would adjust the time of their evening prayers so they could watch the games on TV. I always feel in love with America, Kamal said in an interview in Malaysia. We consider America our second home. The years in the United States had a profound impact. I would say that we grew up in the States. It changed our perspective on the world. One of his favorite television programs was Meet the Press, which he liked to watch just to see how these people argue. So you get this picture, okay? After Ibrahim got her master's degree, the family returned to Malaysia, and she launched her career as an architect. At the age of 32 and pregnant with her 4th child, Ibrahim became the first female lecturer at University Putra Malaysia, a 7,500-acre campus 12 miles south of downtown Kuala Lumpur, the capital city, for those scoring at home. She was soon intellectually restless and applied to Stanford, surprised when she was accepted, In 2000, she returned to the U.S. with an F-1 student visa, while Kamal remained in Malaysia. He was the managing director of an environmental consultancy business and had become deeply committed to international relief work. Kamal traveled to Palo Alto every 3 weeks to visit his wife. On March 10th in 2005, 10 weeks after her encounter at the San Francisco airport, Ibrahim was set to fly from Malaysia to Stanford with plans to put the final touches on her doctoral thesis. At Kuala Lumpur's gleaming modern airport, when she reached the Cathay Pacific counter, she put her bag on the scale. It was filled with presents for her patients at the Stanford Hospital, where she had worked as a volunteer. And she, watched as the supervisory agent asked her to step out of line, and he made and received phone calls on his mobile phone. She was puzzled because Corman had already told her that she was taken off the no-fly list. She gave Corman's card to the supervisor. At 9:25, 5 minutes before the gate was to close, the agent told Ibrahim that he had spoken with the American embassy and that her visa had been revoked. She was angry and perplexed. Why would the State Department do such a thing? She began the laborious process of trying to clear her name of an accusation about which she knew nothing. She filled out the form for people who feel they are wrongly on the no-fly list, called the Travel Redress Inquiry Program, or TRIP. Yeah, because you're going to take one when you fill that out. It provides little in the way of relief. People get to lodge their complaints. When foreign nationals like Ibrahim are involved, the government declines to confirm or deny their presence on any list, but sends a form letter that says applicable records have been reviewed. The letter assures travelers that corrections to the records have been made if warranted. Sounds like a great government form letter. In January of 2006, a year after Ibrahim was shackled in San Francisco, she filed a lawsuit in federal court in San Francisco against a litany of federal agencies. She was not asking for monetary damages or compensation of any sort. She only wanted her name removed from the no-fly list and any other terrorism databases. Ibrahim was represented by pro bono attorneys in a small law firm in San Jose, California, McManus Faulkner. I wanted this case in a heartbeat, said McManus, whose legal hero is Clarence Darrow. What they did to this woman was just outrageous, and I tend to agree. The odds against Ibrahim were beyond astronomical. No one had ever prevailed in a legal challenge of the watch list. The case was assigned to Judge William Alsop, a demanding, hardworking jurist who began his trials at 7:30, about 2 hours before his colleagues on the federal bench ever showed up for work. The government moved to dismiss, arguing that by law, challenges to TSA rulings must be filed before the U.S. Court of Appeals, not the district court. Alsop agreed, case dismissed. Ibrahim's lawyers appealed to the Ninth Circuit. The lead lawyer at the time, Marwa El-Zankali, was there only 3 minutes into her argument when Judge Alexis Kaczynski interrupted, and he didn't let up, peppering her with questions. Kaczynski was the court's chief judge, a gregarious, outspoken, libertarian-leaning intellectual. El-Zankali stood at the lectern, pen in her right hand, scribbling notes on a yellow legal pad, answering the questions with impressive poise. It wasn't as easy for the Justice Department lawyer. If the court had no jurisdiction, how was the plaintiff to get off the no-fly list? Kaczynski wanted to know. If not here, where? If not now, when? Whose parents were Kaczynski, whose parents were Holocaust survivors. It's from the Talmud, you know. The government lawyer was unaware of the saying. The appellate court ruled in Ibrahim's favor 2-1. The terrorist screening center actually determined who was on the no-fly list, not the TSA, Kaczynski wrote for the majority. The case was sent back to Alsop for trial. The Justice Department again moved to dismiss. Ibrahim could not avail herself of constitutional protections because she's not a citizen. Interesting. Keep that in mind. But again, the government lost 2-1 in court. Ibrahim had one significant voluntary connection with the United States, her time at Stanford, continuing discussions with professors, plans to return, and that allowed her to raise constitutional issues, the appeals court said. The judges were troubled by the watch list system. The TSDB had grown by over 700% since its inception, and 20,000 records were being added every month, the court noted. The judges found that the implementation of the no-fly list was problematic. Tens of thousands of travelers had been misidentified because of misspellings and transcription errors in the nomination process, and because of computer algorithms that imperfectly matched travelers against the names on the list, the majority wrote. Meanwhile, the national security bureaucracy seemed uncertain whether Ibrahim was or was not a terrorist, according to documents unearthed by her lawsuit. In December of 2005, 11 months after Homeland Agent Corman told Ibrahim that she had been removed from the no-fly list, Ibrahim was put on the list of terrorist suspects that was sent to Australia and to Canada. She had never visited either country and had no plans to. In September of 2006, she was completely removed from the terrorist screening database, with federal officials concluding there was no nexus to terrorism involved in her case. 6 months later, in March of 2007, Ibrahim reappeared in the database. 2 months after that, she was removed again. The reasons for all these moves remain unknown to Ibrahim or her lawyers, and were not further explained in the passage of the trial record that summarized her changing status. In 2009, Ibrahim applied for a visa so that she could go to San Francisco to work with her lawyers. When she went to the American Embassy in Kuala Lumpur to pick it up, a consular office slid a Dear Visa applicant form letter through the slot in the bulletproof glass. Somehow she was back on the list again. This office regrets to inform you that your visa application is refused because you've been found ineligible under the following sections of the Immigration and Nationality Act. There was no explanation of what the section meant on the form. Ibrahim asked the officer. Terrorist, he wrote on the form. For the first time, Ibrahim knew the United States government considered her a terrorist. Her tribulations with the American government contrasted with her triumphs at the Malaysian University. She became a senior lecturer in November of 2006, associate professor 6 months later, full professor in 2011, when she was named Dean of the Faculty of Architecture and Design. Her rapid ascent generated some grumbling envy and enmity among her colleagues, virtually all men. She was acquiring an international reputation in the field of affordable housing. The list of academic papers to her credit ran more than 10 pages, and she was invited to conferences around the world. The country she wanted to visit, the United States, would not admit her. The Academy of Sciences of Malaysia collaborated with the New York Academy of Sciences, but she could not attend meetings when they were in New York. She wanted to explore the establishment of a joint research center with Stanford, which would have been a coup for her university as well as the country. Her resolve was clear. This is too hard to swallow, said Judge Alsop in one ruling. But swallow it he did, and the black ink remained in place. The vast majority of documents in Ibrahim's case, briefs, motions, letters to judges, hearing transcripts, contain redactions from a word or two to a few paragraphs to entire pages, and it makes it impossible to fully access the transcripts and read them out. Attorney General Eric Holder filed an affidavit with the court broadly summarizing the evidence the government was withholding on the grounds that it contained quote-unquote state secrets and public release would harm national security. The government's claim was sweeping, covering any information that could tend to confirm or deny whether Ibrahim was or was not the subject of an FBI investigation. Any information obtained by the FBI from the U.S. intelligence community relating to the reasons for any investigation of Ibrahim, her associates, or any information related to whether court-ordered searches or surveillance, confidential human sources, and other investigative or operational sources and methods were used by the FBI That's not secret. It's not secret, said Elizabeth Pipkin, who had taken over as the lead lawyer when Elzin Kali married and moved back to Egypt. And she had the documents to prove it. Kevin Kelly, the FBI agent who interviewed Ibrahim in 2004, had prepared a report. Ibrahim's lawyers had obtained it through a request under the Freedom of Information Act. You have a document there. You want to show me that where you got that from? The Freedom of Information Request Act said also? Yes, said Pipkin, who was in her mid-30s but already arguing what older colleagues told her was to be the biggest case of her career. Also ruled that Kelly's interview report was admissible. Pipkin then directed his attention to the number 315 written on the report. The Bureau's file classification list said 315 was the designation for international terrorism investigations. Her case went on and on and on and on. People, I'm telling you, she won the case, okay? She ended up winning the case after a decade in court. But she still can't fly into the United States. They took her off the list. They put her back on the list. They took her off the list. They put her back on the list. They took her back off the list. They put her back on the list. The judge ordered that they take her off the list. Eric Holder said, no, we can't do that. And I can't tell you why, because it's a state secret. It might threaten national security. And we all know what an upstanding guy Eric Holder is, fast and furious, right? There's something to be said for our justice system, and then there's something to be said about our injustice of the justice system. Folks, and Mr. Producer, you know I'm about to just make you happy because I know you set this up for me. This is not how this is supposed to work.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
That's right. People, look, I'm all about securing our homeland. And I always tell you, do your own homework. Mr. Trump, you cannot seriously support restricting gun sales to the no-fly list when there is no set criteria for being placed on the list. There is no set process for being removed from the list. This would be disastrous. The government need only put all 315 million Americans on the no-fly list, and the Second Amendment would be gone. There would be no Second Amendment anymore, because then it would fall under national security. Folks, are you getting this? We could fight it for a decade and not get anywhere, because they would just say that it would be a risk to national security. This cannot happen. Hillary is all about it. She just foaming at the mouth to make this happen. That's what makes me even angrier that this jackass Trump is now saying that he would back this. When the hell did Trump decide to jump left all this? Well, I mean, not that he doesn't have some left ideas already, but okay, he's jumping even more left. This cannot happen. You people out there who support Trump so blindly that claim he's going to make America great again. How's he going to make America great again by taking away your constitutional rights? You idiots. Pay attention. Don't just be angry. That doesn't get you anywhere. Folks, top of the hour. Time for me to wrap it up. Again, a reminder, 2 hours from now, Rowdy Rick with America Off the Rails. Tomorrow night, Dr. A and Lou, Office Hours. JD and Stacy, Game On. Rick and Jen, America Off the Rails. Next Wednesday night, we are going to rock the freaking house with Dave Bray right here on the Conservative Curmudgeon Show. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be fun if it's nothing else. Folks, as always, do your own homework. Be back next week. Take care of yourselves and your families. And God bless you. This is the Grouch. I'm out.
We believe in the American way, and we built this country called the USA, and we fly our flag because we're proud and free, we're Americans. Red, white, and blue.
The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Get set again.
As a mother, you don't want to have to worry about this bill is coming, but then she needs this chemo. That's a decision you shouldn't have to make.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
The treatment doesn't get any better than what you receive at St. Jude. It saved my life. It saved my daughter's life. It saved our family.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.